take this signal and completely silence it. We do that by popping pills. We just ice it, try to numb it, just grind and power through it. That seems to be the preferred choice for many, is this idea of grinding through it almost as a badge of honor. Welcome back to the Against the Herd podcast, the podcast for high performers who are done settling for cookie cutter health advice and band-aid solutions. I am your host, Armando Cruz, and today I want to hit a nerve, literally, because we need to talk about something that is truly misunderstood, mislabeled, and mismanaged. What am I talking about? Pain, pain, pain. Pain is something that will radically shift the quality of your life. And we've been taught that pain is the problem. But what if I told you that pain is actually a messenger? It's not the enemy, it's just a signal. The problem is what you do with that signal. You know, when I think about the countless of clients that I've seen over the years. And what's interesting is that, pain is usually the thing that brings them to me, um, from kids to adults. And what we try to do is take this signal and completely silence it. We do that by popping pills. We just ice it, try to numb it, just grind and power through it. That seems to be the preferred choice for many, is this idea of grinding through it almost as a badge of honor. And if you're a high performer, I'm pretty sure you've gotten really good results powering through. But here's the truth. Pain is not weakness leaving the body. Pain is wisdom trying to get your attention. Now, let's make the distinction for a second because, you know, I love pushing the envelope. I love grinding through difficulty, through some level of suffering to grow, to find out more about myself. That's not what we're talking about. There is a very big difference between you going out there and grinding out a hard workout and it being difficult because you're out of breath, your muscles are screaming, and you're running out of oxygen and you're just trying to grind through that, or doing something where you're trying to scale a mountain and it's you got weather conditions, you got steep inclines, loose rocks. That's very different. Testing yourself from that capacity and the pain that you get from that, the pain that you get from pushing yourself on a race and pushing as hard as you can. That is not what we're talking about. So let's make the distinction that when we say pain, that term or that statement that is often saying is that pain is weakness leaving the body, it's referring to those moments where you're pushing your body in such a way with the intention to grow because you've actually put yourself in this difficult position on purpose to grow, to learn more about yourself. What we're talking about here and the pain that we're talking about here is joint pain, is nerve pain, is this muscular pain that is different than when you're putting. This is something where either you remember an injury or it's something that's crept up and now it's become chronic. You can't quite figure it out. So when I say pain is not weakness leaving the body, pain is wisdom trying to get your attention. That is what we're talking about. And by the way, I share that because being clear with terms is the only way we can communicate clearly. So you'll find that often in this podcast, and I'm going to intentionally try to do this, is I'll try to define things when I'm making a statement because that way, your definition of what pain is and mine could be different. But when I say, hey, this is what I mean when I mean pain, now you have a better idea. And so let's use that framework of Pain is really wisdom trying to get your attention. Your body is trying to give you a signal that says, hey, I don't feel safe with something. I don't feel supported. I don't feel heard. I don't feel like I'm able to give you your full potential because I might get hurt. And so what we need to do is give the brain and the body what it needs so that it can give us access to the movements, the power, and the strength that we seek as high performers. So let's just jump in. Let me give you a quick little example of pain as wisdom trying to get your attention. So I had this client of mine once. We'll call him David for this sake. He was ex-military, business owner, just, hard charger, worked 70 hours a week, trained like a savage. And he came to me like limping, frustrated, basically saying, look, my back is all jacked up. I've seen specialists and they all say I need to stop training. But guess what? That's not happening. I need to figure this out. So, I was grateful that he came to me. And like I've mentioned in other podcast episodes, we are not a car where you can just switch out a part and that's it. As humans, there are many layers to us, and everything in our body is in our body for a reason. When I hear doctors and scientists say, "Oh, that's a, and a bit like the appendix. Oh, that's not necessary," or "Oh, we can take this out. That's not that necessary." No, there's a difference between can you live without it and does it serve a purpose? Okay. There are lots of things that you can live without, but if it's in your body, rest assured that it has a purpose. The more accurate and more precise way of saying is we really don't know how it integrates with your global health. Um, but we do know that if this right now is creating the problem and we take it out, um, we know that you can continue living and move forward from there. So I think that's an important distinction, right? But anyways, going back to my client David here, as we dug in, we realized that his back was not really the issue, and that's where everybody was looking. His spine was doing the best that it could. It was compensating for decades of poor breathing patterns, super tight hips, the stress and the load of being in the military, just all that punishment was building up. And then on top of that, there was an emotional load that he had never really processed. And so we didn't fix him. What we did was we cleared out these friction points, these obstacles. We retaught him how to breathe in a way that allowed his nervous system to, number one, feel safe, and number two, start healing, right? Because if you're in a fight or flight mode, your body does not heal. That's a critical point to make because this mentality that high performers have is that grind and go, 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 go. And it works. It works to get you through these sticking points. But the long-term effect is that your nervous system is always in survival mode. And so that repairing, regeneration, that healing doesn't happen. And it doesn't happen consistently to the degree that it needs to. And most of the times, your body is very adaptable. But when you load it up from many different angles, there's some points where you reach that breaking point, and now you can't just get by doing that, right? The body is very resilient. Like we punish it. We punish it. And so going back, we help to restore a healing breathing pattern that brought his nervous system into a parasympathetic state. So it wasn't in that survival mode. We integrated reflexes and neural re-education to open up his tight hips. And then we peel back on some of that emotional baggage, right? Imagine if think of the military, those really heavy rucks, 70 to 100 pounds. These guys are rucking with that. a full loadout. If guys are patrolling with gun, with every, I mean, these guys are carrying over 100 pounds on their back. And I can't imagine, first of all, having to be in war and you're lugging around 100 plus pounds. I can't fathom how immobile you are. Like 100 pounds is not nothing to be moving. It's a person on your back. So to do that and be get sh and get shot, be getting shot at, that's mind blowing to me. So to me, the military is always these guys are superhuman, and you know, any chance I get, I want to support them because of how much they've sacrificed for us. And I truly believe it. Like that's something I do believe, whether you're in agreement with all the politics or whatnot, when these men and women go out there, they go out there with intention to serve our country, a country that I feel is amazing. Not perfect, but amazing. And it gives us opportunities that very few places have. So, anyways, to jump back into it, um, we helped him create an environment where he can start peeling back on some of that emotional baggage, literally start taking off that emotional backpack. And, one of the things I used to tell him, I said, hey, I know you're carrying a lot of stuff right now. And so here's what I want you to do. We would visualize him imagining all that emotional trauma, all that emotional load in a backpack. And I would literally walk him. Hey, I want you to close your eyes, see yourself walking into our facility, and I want you to take that backpack, put it off, leave it on the corner. And if on the way back, on the way out, you want to pick it back up, go for it. If not, we'll put it here, we'll put it in the lost and found. And if you ever want to come back, you can come back and get it, but you don't have to stay carrying it all the time. And we just kept working on that. I'm not going to get into specifics of exactly what we did there, but just I wanted to tap into it so you understand that it's not just the physical stuff. And what was beautiful is that as we fixed his external environment and his internal environment, we cleared the clutter. We started improving his breathing. We now started refocusing his identity around what it means to be successful, what it means to be a man, what it means uh, to be healthy. All of a sudden, the pain left. And it wasn't like a quick fix. It was a, a lasting thing, something that, once we got over those hurdles, the things that all the doctors couldn't figure out was because they were looking at the physical only. And there were some physical components to this, but if you don't address all of it, it's going to continue to come back. It's the dog chasing his tail. You're just going to keep going on circles and circles and circles. So, um, I've talked about this idea of the physical pain. So let's talk about the three types of pain that I've seen over and over again that most people only realize the first one, which is physical pain. And it's the obvious ones. Hey, my joints hurts, my muscles hurt, injuries, different things like that. But the ones that very often get neglected or go unseen are emotional pain, stuff like grief, anger, trauma stored in the body. And then you have spiritual pain. And this is this idea of disconnection from purpose, uh, like a disconnection from your values, from your identity. That one strikes deep. And I'll tell you what, I've seen this in men and women, but if if I look back at all my clients, and I've had a pretty even men and women distribution, I would say I see this one, what's the word I'm looking for? Burden more men than women. And I'm not saying that women don't, but for whatever reason, my experiential data will tell me that very often this idea of disconnect from purpose, values, and identity has seemed to really affect men more. Um, but the kicker is that all three show up in your body and all three contribute in every single situation. Some of them can just be primarily physical, but it's always important to kind of peel layers. Hey, what's going on emotionally? What's going on spiritually? Um, in fact, on this podcast, you'll hear from one of my guests and past clients, Kirsten, is that, you know, she experienced pain that a lot of the doctors couldn't really explain, even with scans, tests. She had referrals, but once she came and we were able to kind of assess physical pain, emotional pain, spiritual pain, we were able to start changing her environment, let her start feeling and healing in that environment. Like, think about this. If you've ever walked into a room, like it happens to me all the time, like in this office, in my office, in the clinic, if it's cluttered, it's hard for me to think clearly. Some people, it's not a big deal, but I find that cumbersome. I find that the clutter clutters my mind and I can't think as clear. So I have to take a moment and just kind of like clean out, clean out, clean out. Um, I wonder what's in your environment right now that is cluttering your thinking, that is providing challenges, obstacles in your healing, in your growth, in your life, right? So once we were able to change her environment and make it conducive for her to heal, um, the pain started melting away, like gone. Stuff that other health professionals couldn't figure out because they weren't looking at these three levels. I don't have a magic technique, but because we were able to listen to her body, and I think that's the beauty of this. This is communication. We were able to listen to her body, what the pain was trying to tell her. And once we once we listened, we started feeding the brain, we started feeding the nervous system, feeding the body what it needed to heal, what it needed to help, what it needed to grow, strengthen. And lo and behold, again, pain gone. It's not magic. It's like if you feed it what it needs, it's gonna give you the results that you want. So let's jump in and think about like, what do you do when pain shows up? The natural tendency is to try to silence it. That's the natural tendency. If somebody pushes you, the natural tendency is to push back, right? Like we meet force on force. That is the natural way that most people operate. I remember I have, still a good friend, but truly one of the great mentors in my life, Dax. I've mentioned him in other podcasts and other interviews because he made such an impact. He's one of three men in my life that I feel like really opened my eyes, mentored me in a way that radically transformed the way I looked at things. And number one was my father. Number two was Dr. Gonzalez, which was one of my teachers in high school. And then I would say Dax is the third one. And in that order is kind of how I've met them through my life. I mean, obviously my dad is still around and knock on wood for many more years because, he continues to be an inspiration and someone who I draw from daily. Dr. Gonzalez, um, I don't really talk to that much, but the impact is still going now. And Dax, we still talk, not as much as I'd love. So maybe that's a reminder for me to maybe give him a call. But his mentorship, his what he taught me, how he taught me to think, um, continues to be in everything that I do. And so I remember him sharing this lesson of this force on force. And so he shared this idea of redirection. Like if you think of Aikido, those of you that grew up in the 90s, the Steven Seagal films and how he would like an assailant would come with a bat or something and try to swing and he would just like redirect it and the guy would go flying or go somewhere else, right? So the idea here is how do we take pain and redirect it like an Aikido move? Instead of going force on force, the way Dax put it is like, how do we redirect it so that now instead of going head to head, you're shoulder to shoulder, so you're both looking in the same direction, right? Like you're moving in the same direction as opposed to in opposing directions. And so when you feel pain or when pain shows up, you don't silence it. You decode it. You position yourself to align with it so you can better understand it. So here's a simple framework I teach my clients. And, number one, recognize, you know, what kind of pain is it? Is it physical pain? Is it emotional pain? Is it spiritual pain? Or how much of each is it? Where is it showing up in my life? When is it showing up? Are there certain people that are bringing it up, certain environments? Hey, every time I walk in my bedroom, I just start feeling this way. Maybe there's something going on in the bedroom that we need to clear out. When I go into work, like I feel a certain uneasiness. Um, do I need to do anything? Like, is my workspace part of the problem? Is the way I communicate part of the problem? Is the way my boss communicates part of the problem? Is it what I've allowed part of the problem? I had a friend of mine share with me, you get what you tolerate. What are you tolerating? And is that contributing to this? So number one, recognize. Number two, reflect. Reflection can be hard. That silence, because it requires a pause. It requires a level of silence so you can work through things. So you can shine a mirror and look back at yourself and say, what might this pain be trying to protect me from? You know, what what am I ignoring physically, emotionally, spiritually, right? That silence, in that silence, those answers become so loud, often they become deafening. And here's where being a high performer helps you is that many people run from that. Many people run from that because it's so loud, it becomes so apparent, and you need courage. It sounds weird, but you need courage to address it. And you don't always do it. I mean, many of the times it's staring you right in the face and you want to go and do something else. There was a funny meme that I've seen, and it's in different versions. And because I'm a runner and I've seen many different ones, that it's like uh, it shows a guy, he's looking at this horse, and over at the top of the horse it shows it shows uh, you know nutrition. Then it sees another horse, uh, a consistent training, and then it sees another horse, uh, ice baths, and then it shows brand new pair of shoes, and then it shows a whole bunch of like different training methods, and then he comes back and he goes, oh, let me buy a new pair of shoes, right? And I find that funny because we all do it to some degree in different aspects or different areas of our life. Like we all have these areas of our life that we dominate more, and then other ones that we don't. And it's because there's little holes in our game in those areas that don't allow us to excel like it does in other ones. So you've kind of figured things out in all these other areas, but this one area or these two areas, mm, there's always that gap, that skill gap that just quite haven't dominated yet, right? So again, going back, that reflection in that silence, it can be deafening. And so you need to have the courage to act on it, right? So number one, recognize. Number two, reflect. Number three, rebuild. And so pain is an invitation. Pain is that invitation to take action on some of those reflections, whether it's movement, breath work, forgiveness, setting new boundaries. What needs to shift? That's a question that is quite actionable, right? When we ask what needs to shift, and then maybe how or who can I shift that? The who one, ooh, that one's powerful. Um, I think it's a book. The reason I don't know is because I hear it all the time from a good friend, Alex. Actually, he's one of the guests here on the podcast. Um, and I remember every time we hop on a call, when I get stuck with something or when he gets stuck, we go back to don't ask how, ask who, right? That who. Who's that person that can help you with that? Who's that person that has this mastered that I can model? Who can help bridge that gap? Who can introduce me to that next person? Who do you know that can make that difference, right? And so, um, what needs to shift? Ask that who can help me with that shift. Sometimes it's looking at yourself. You're the who, right? Sometimes it's looking towards God. That's the bigger power. Hey, I need to surrender and just offer this up, you know? Here's what I know. You can't build legacy while ignoring your body's signals. You can't build excellence if you're ignoring yourself. You're ignoring your body, ignoring your health. You can't lead powerfully when you're disconnected from your own system. You can't perform at your highest level while you're dragging around with unresolved pain like an anchor. Okay? Um, your body will whisper at times. And if you don't listen, it'll start shouting. And if you still ignore you, if you if you still ignore it, um, it'll force you to stop, right? So here's my here's an invitation is open those ears for the whispers. Because if you can tap into those whispers are gonna you're gonna be able to address them quick and keep moving on. And so if you're the high performer, the hard charger, like I know you are, and you want to remain that way, right? Because it's awesome living that way. I I, I don't deny it. I love living in a way where we're pushing boundaries, we're staying curious, we're looking for ways to create impact. If you want to remain there, you need to become good at the whispers. A line that I always share with my clients is like, hey, come to me with a campfire, a candle. Don't wait until it's a raging forest fire to address this. Because if you get it early, a little campfire, a candle, we can extinguish that quick. You can get back to doing everything that you want with little to no downtime. If you wait until it's that roaring and raging forest fire, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. It's going to take double, triple. Like it's not a linear thing. I'm cautious to say it's exponential, but it's significantly more difficult and it takes a longer time if you wait until it's that raging forest fire where your body is like, oh, you're not listening? I whispered, I started shouting, and now you continue to ignore it. I'm shutting the system down, right? So next time pain shows up, don't ask How do I shut this down? Ask, what is it trying to tell me? That question alone can change your life. If this episode hits home, share it with somebody who's been powering through things and tell them to stop. Start listening instead. Powering is good, but powering with no direction, with no clarity, is like just charging in the darkness and you don't even know if you're heading the right direction. And very often you end up further from your goal. And honestly, um, your body will thank you if you start listening to it. Your relationship with your health and with your body will radically improve. If you've been in a situation where you've been really struggling with chronic pain, struggling with like you can't quite understand, right? So imagine this is a language, the language of the body, the language of pain is a very precise one. If you don't know the language, you're not going to know what it is. Lucky for you, I'm an expert in the language of the body and the language of pain. So if you're kind of stuck, you've tried everything, and you're tired of powering through this, you want to become fluent in the language of the body, language of understanding what this pain means, I'd love to help. Go to cruise, C-R-U-Z, country.com and schedule your pain profile analysis. I'd be happy to hop on a call with you and peel back the layers, gain more clarity on exactly what's going on. Doesn't matter where you are in the world. We can have a conversation from anywhere. I've helped people all over the world. You don't need to be here in Miami. Let's decode messages together, rebuild your health with vitality. And until the next time, stay sharp, stay open, and continue to push against the herd.